MADiSON, from one glance at the cover, before you even start the game, clearly takes at least some inspiration from Fatal Frame and its supernatural camera. Now that was enough to hook me, because I love Fatal Frame. I quickly found out that this is less than an homage to Fatal Frame, and more like Fatal Frame from Temu, but Tana and I still had a great time playing this game, even if it was far from perfect. The premise of the game is that you play as some kid named Lucas who's helping his dad go through his late grandfather's house. There's a bunch of weird stuff going on, and it doesn't take you long to figure out that Grandpa's house is haunted. Like, super haunted. Grandpa also had a lot of really bizarre locks in his house. Ever seen the movie 13 Ghosts? It's kind of like that house if it looked like a normal house. Oh, and his house is enormous. As far as interior spaces go, it's probably bigger than the Arklay Mansion from Resident Evil, and as bizarrely designed as the real-life Winchester Mystery House. Luke is a weird artsy kid, so he's always got his camera with him, and wouldn't you know it, the camera affects ghosts. Instead of hurting them like in Fatal Frame, it more kind of screws with them and causes things to change. Can't figure out where to go next? Take a picture of a painting. Seems like a dead end? Take a Polaroid of that wall. A door might magically appear. The camera factors into a lot of the game's puzzles. And while a lot of those puzzles are super cleverly designed and I really liked them, a lot of them are so obtuse as to leave me completely stunned how anyone could figure them out without a walkthrough. Maybe I'm just stupid. I don't know, that's possible. But I don't get how anybody would have stumbled on the solutions to some of these puzzles. There's also a super creepy demonic song that sounds like Tiny Tim if his soul were condemned to eternal torture in the ninth circle of hell, so, you know, that's fun and definitely won't plague your dreams for a week. The biggest problems I have with MADiSON aren't even that it's a bad game, but that it's just not a polished game. This is Bloodiest Games' first project, and while you can definitely tell it's a studio's first game, I do think they did a very good job for a first game. It feels kind of like a rough draft. Like, it's not quite what I would have considered ready for commercial release quite yet, but it's definitely enough that it just needed some small tweaks and fixes here and there. No major changes. I have no idea how it plays on a Switch. I played using my Switch 2, but I had no major frame rate issues. I did, however, have some issues with the visuals. The game's graphics, at least in the Switch version, just looked a bit muddy and blurry. It was never bad enough that I couldn't make out what something was, and it's not like it looks like a GameCube game or anything. But it does look much closer to what I would expect from a Wii U game than from a late-stage Switch game. That's honestly probably just down to a small studio that isn't familiar enough with the intricacies of Nintendo hardware to squeeze out everything it's capable of. Fatal Frame 4 and Fatal Frame 5 on Switch both look much better than MADiSON, and down to prioritizing frame rate over resolution and graphical detail, and I really can't fault them for that. The studio can only do what its skills can do, and I will always say that prioritizing frame rate over resolution is the correct choice. If Bloodiest sees enough success here in their next couple of games to stick with the horror genre and stick with Nintendo hardware, I suspect we'll see a ton of improvement in what they're able to get the hardware to do. But it is definitely worth noting that in this game, it doesn't look especially good on Switch. I know my brief synopsis of MADiSON's story was pretty vague, but I did that so as not to spoil anyone who might want to play this game in the future, as I really did love this game's story. It's goofy and doesn't always make a lot of sense, but it's really quite creative, and I loved piecing together what's going on in the story and the history of this house bit by bit throughout my playtime with the game. While a lot of the game's biggest scares admittedly are jump scares, I thought for the most part they were very well done jump scares. A bit too reliant on jump scares maybe, but the overall atmosphere of the game was tense enough to keep me on edge, even with long spells between jump scares, so that when they did happen, it felt more impactful than if it were just jump scare after jump scare. And it didn't feel like a cheap cop-out way to make the player scream. And I definitely screamed. Like, we're talking schoolgirl who just had a worm put in her hair scream. My poor neighbors probably thought I was being murdered. If you're a fan of horror games, MADiSON is definitely worth playing. I might recommend the PlayStation 5 version, as hopefully the resolution's a bit better and cleans up some of the muddiness I encountered playing on Switch, but it is still completely playable and enjoyable on Switch if that's your system of choice. If you've played all of the Fatal Frame games and you're still hungry for something with sort of a similar vibe, give this one a shot. Worst case scenario, it feels like you're playing a B-movie. My rating for MADiSON on Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Windows is a B.